Here is a look at your gap and go trades for the week of December 22nd through the 26th. I will go over price targets on the 5-minute time frame, have a gap recap from December 15th through the 19th, and update the chart as well. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. First up is Rivn. We ended the week at $22.45, up a whopping 10.70%. The reason? Wedbush raised its price target from $16 to $25, citing the upcoming R2 compact model expected in early 2026 to boost deliveries and margins. Now, the board also is losing a board member, going from 8 to 7. And I think 7 is way too many. So they are cutting the number of board members. So that's good to hear. All right. So this is where we are. To the north side takes us to one level of resistance and a potential take profit area at 23.63. Above that, 24.43. And should we be so lucky as to get to this level on Monday, that would take us to 25.28. This is also resistance. Let me click off of that. Now, the middle of the trend has been slowly inching up. We are making higher highs. Oops, that is the wrong shade of purple. Let me try that one more time. And that is 21.95. That is support. We could grind sideways, or we could fall down, and -2 standard deviations would take us to 20.27. Below that, at another potential buy-in area and a potential stop-loss area, 19.41 and 18.54. This gap closes to the downside for a pullback at 17.70. We are in an upward channel, so I anticipate we kind of grind along this line here, or we continue to chop sideways because we ran so high, so fast, that there is going to be a pullback. You can expect that. But the 1-year price target is $25. Well, to the downside, 16.59. And this is where we are. So 25, and then below that, $10. I'm not sure, but if you think that we are going to tank in 2026, who knows? So this is one target to the south side. And previously, we were at 18. Why do I have 18.42 right here when Friday? Oh, this is... I need to move this. There we go. This makes more sense. Okay. We were at 18.42, and now we're at 22.45. And that, my dear, is a return of 21%. But we were only up just 10% for that day, for Friday. So congrats if you made some money off of that trade there. Now, we also have another landmine to be aware of to the south side, taking us down to 16.48. Now, we were grinding sideways here, and then we hit support on the way down, another level of support, and bounced, and then grinding along this area that I have marked out previously, and then from there, which is a clear support zone right here, up to resistance. This is the middle of the trend, and also resistance, but we blazed through it. We've got a tiny gap that will take us down to 20.31 for a pullback. So watch out for that as well. And what do I have to clean up? That's all clean, clean. And I want to show you something else. Let's go to the 15. Let's see if I can. Okay, let's go to the daily because it's not pulling up from here. Ignore all my markings from previously. As you can see, I have marked this out for a very long time. Well, for the gap and goes, I started tracking that on Monday, February 24th, but previously marking and tracking it at the $12 range here in 2023. Okay, but what I wanted to show you was not this, oops, that there is a gap that I have been tracking that, fingers crossed, will close this week. Let me see if I can extend that out. 23.34 is what I have. Now that I've extended it, you can see that is the only gap that I am now tracking. There could be other gaps to the upside, but for the purposes of my gap and goes, that is the last one that I am tracking. It's taken a long time to get to this level. Now let's go to the 5. Oh, well, yeah, let's just go to the 5. And I extended that out, as you could see. And when you go to the different time frames, obviously you're going to get different markings. So that took us out over here, but for the 5-minute time frame and purposes, I'm just going to change the markings a little bit. But could we get to this level from right here? And that's within 2 standard deviations all day long. So fingers crossed that we hit this mark, and I will be done tracking this. And I will stop with my gap and goes once all of them hit a level that I'm tracking. Could take a while on some of the other ones. All right, now let's go to the next one. Boeing. Up $5.81 a share, up 2.79%. What happened to Boeing here in an upward channel? All right, we are at the middle of the trend. I will mark that out. Okay, resistance, a safe area to get to, 217.43. Above that, who knows, but the calculations will change automatically. 219.04, resistance, take profit, 220.76. To the south side, 210.94, roughly 209.25. We have this gap that will close out at 208.67. And then at -4, almost lines up with another gap. 208 closes out at 206.46-ish. 206.45 is a previous price target that we already hit. All right, what else is happening? So we are in an upward channel, so we could grind up, and by the end of the week, the middle of the trend could take us to an area we've been, 2210. What am I saying? 22210, and then 22525, and then to the south side, get this out of my way, 218.76. So we hit resistance, fell back down a little bit, and now we're at support. Now this needs to be cleaned up. This was an expected move at 213.52, and congrats if you went long when we flushed to the downside. And that opened up on Thursday the 30th. So congrats, no longer in play. Delete, delete. Okay. And apparently this one touched and I did not clean that up right here. That took us to 202.24 and then closed out at 204.55 previously. And now let's talk about this gap to the downside as well in play. Well, it's still in play, but we are moving farther away from it. Not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close. And then we have this one, 196.23, closing out to 186.76, 182 down here. So watch out for that whenever we retrace. Next, if I can grab that, NEO. Up 1.22%. Yeah, we previously tanked. Look at that from all the way, oh geez, up here to all the way down here. That was a rug pull. Let's talk about this upcoming week. The middle of the trend is here. Resistance 506, 509, retracing to an area 512. And that I marked out in 2024. We're moving away from that. And then 492, 489, and down the road 485. This will take us down to 494. And this one is still in play to 480. Let's just do that and then extend this because the magnet makes things wonky. And look at this landmine down here as well. But we are in an upward channel, so that's good to see. Oops. That will be about 456-ish. Closing out at 446-ish. Option R. Now let's just mark all of this while I'm here. Oh, and we also have a gap here, I just noticed. A gap within a gap. So the chances of that gap closing within another gap is pretty strong. Okay, that starts right here, closes right here. This is resistance. You know what's going to happen. Support, a bounce up to resistance and sell off if we eked out just a little bit more. On the way down, support, buy-in. Fell through, bounced off of a line I drew, and up to resistance, back down to support and your sell-off. That's a clear signal, clear signal, clear signals. And this one closed right here on Wednesday the 10th, took us to roughly 510. So congrats on that move. And then for a retracement here and here. Oh, let's clean up this one we gapped up, so it means we closed it to the downside in an expected move down. So that's 572, and that took us down to 559. So congrats, that is no longer a threat to our account. As you can see, I trade the same way. Whoops. I do not make things complicated. I don't have time for drama. Okay, especially with the trading. I have enough drama with my HOA. Can't stand my HOA. Can't stand the lies that the just idiots I deal with. Okay. The gaslighting is what I should say. So pathetic. That's what happens when you don't have term limits. Okay, Tsly. We are at support. 40.17 up above, 40.86. Well, I have to keep moving this thing out of the way. 41.20 and down the road, 41.57. To the south side, 39.47, and then maybe below that, 39.13, and then 38.80 at some other point. So look at that. I wasn't paying attention because I have been busy. I bought here, could have sold out up here just because I'm not in this for a long term. This is just a swing trade, and I didn't pay attention. I traded a bunch of other things though. Palantir this week, What else? MSOS. I sold out of mRNA, and then it ran more, but that's okay because I was happy with my gains. Clear sell signal, clear like on the way down. This is the buy signal. This is resistance and sell, but we eked up a little higher and then gave it back, pushed upward and then back down again. So now we're going to either chop sideways or continue to follow this path downward until there is a reversal. And let's clean up. What is that? Okay, hold on a second. I need to clean this one up. So we gapped down and then we gapped up and it touched right here. So this one to the upside at 39.54 is done. 39.45. Okay, that's done. This one's done, that one's done. So we're looking good there. And then what about this one? This is a gap. Oh, that touched right here. It got a little confusing because I like to mark my sell sign here. And this green looked like it was part of that gap, and it is not. So that explains my confusion, but I figured it out. Let's turn it to a different green. That way I know. So we closed this. Nope. Grabbed the wrong thing. There it is, I think. No. Gosh darn it. Let's just move this out of the way for now. It's this thing I want to grab. Okay, so we touched right here, and that was on Monday the 15th. So this took us to 40.36. Let's delete that. Oops, wrong thing. So this gap is right here, this big gap. So that's took us down to 39.46 and then made our way up. So that's good. And then all of that again is done. So what else? So we have a gap down here for a pullback, taking us down to 36.32. And that's it. We have gaps to the upside. A small one right there to 43.35. And this one too. I will just mark out this one now that it has appeared. And earlier I mentioned my HOA. It's just one HOA. One HOA that is a problem HOA. Thank goodness my other ones are fine. Okay, that gap is going to take us to eventually 42.98. And I think, oh, one more. Let's just go to Nike really fast. This is, okay, Nike is a hot mess because we're bleeding out again. You know, we were stabilizing, running up a little bit, and then we had earnings, and it was good. But you know how it is. You get punished. You just never know what happens. Somebody wants to buy this lower, so the market makers are crashing it. But I would love it to go back to this area and then buy more. All right, let's do this very quickly. 58.71. Okay, the middle of the trend. I'm going to have to start deleting some things here. That is right here. Let's get rid of this line. Too close. When did I mark that out? Oh my goodness. Forever ago. And we are just returning to this area. From May 8 Okay, 2025, I marked this out. And I'm going to delete it now, but we're just retracing to May's levels. Option R. Oops, stay on page. Option R. Okay. Now I got to get back to this. So I will delete this May 8th. Too close. And then this is off to Friday right there. And then one tick over is Monday. Okay, so that's resistance, 59.58. And then should we be so lucky as to get to this level, 63.46, don't hold your breath. And then 65.36 down the line, and then way into the future, 67.22. 56.08. 54.21, and then 52.31, which would be the 52-week low. I will definitely buy down there if we're able to even get that low. This might be the basing that we need, and then off to the races. Okay, what happened the previous week? So we were at 67.47, and then went sideways. This gap, oh, we've got a gap that formed, so that's nice. For a retracement, whenever that happens, you have to be patient. That will take us to 67.10. Oh, look at this. Okay, I already expected this move, and we closed it, which is good. We need to be done with this. Clean up the train wreck, 63.51, done. And then, oh, this gap that I anticipated is also done. Yay, closing that one. Well, that one here took us down to 58, oops, 38. Let's just go to the 15 so I can see this easier. Wow, how long is that? Oh, gosh darn it, I keep grabbing it in the wrong section. So that started on May 25th. Wow. Oh my gosh, look at this retracement. Yowza. So 58.38 is done. So anywhere I see, oops, 58.38, garbage. 58.38. Let's move this closer. Garbage. We closed it out. No longer a threat. Okay, and that was all the way up here at 62.71, started bleeding out. See that? Okay, so that's done. Congratulations. That was a huge move to the downside if you went short. It's like you think, oh, we're running, things are turning around. Oh no, there's always a rug pull. Okay, and then this 60.81 is done though. And that, my friends, started on November the 11th. Delete. Delete. And then 58.38, that's done. Oops, I don't want to lock it. See, look how close we got right there. And then it bounced right off that support. This is support on the way down. Those lines also act as support and resistance, the gaps. All right, 57.26 is the next one. And we're so close that I think we could close it out. It's going to want to close out and then hopefully bounce off of that. Be prepared. 57 and then 57.26. Huh. Oh, I'm missing a line here. Let's put it in. Friday. Right there. Okay, that is it. Option R. Oops, stay on page. Let's give you the 1-year price target, 78 bucks. It's time to go trolling. Check everything on the weekly, the monthly time frames to give you different buy and sell signals as well. And that does it for me. That is a look at Rivn, Boeing, NEO, Tsly, which I own, and Boeing and Nike. All right, have a great trading week.